my god, that was so epic.
I think that's it. There he is. You guys ready? Let's pull it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh. Hey! And JB's on there! 600! 600! Yes! Yay! 600 mile time. That would be just... So here we are, back with the real supercharger. Okay, we are on the test track.
So I'd recommend putting your head on the headrest.
Okay.
There he's ready.
Nope. Yep. Oh. Oh, there it goes. Oh. Oh, that never gets old either. We have the post-study production cars here.
Wait, what?
Yeah, oh yeah, you watch it.
But why is he gonna throw it?
I don't know, but we're gonna watch it.
Yeah.
He just used a sledgehammer. What?
Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
I'm Eric, otherwise known as DÆrik, here in Shanghai at Gigafactory 3.
Ballapalooza. It's like tricks.
3, 2, 1.
Will it wipe is the big question of the day.
Will it wipe?
Generic cornflakes.
Whoa! It's raining cornflakes! Oh. This is trippy. Look, there's nothing here.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today is the day.
We are live once again for the Tesla Q2 2022 financial results and Q&A webcast. Oh.
Okay. Oh, wait, did it freeze? No, it didn't freeze. Okay. Anyway, welcome everybody. You can see the dogs in the background are not very entertained. Just want to go over the slide deck in case you haven't already. It was published, what is that, a little over an hour ago for Q2 2022 Tesla financials. And everything looks really amazing. First and foremost though.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, I just want to say their EPS, earnings per share, was forecasted at like 1.86 and they came in at 2.27.
Wow.
Wow. Indeed. So they're killing it. Now the stock price did jump up as usual, and it has since kind of even back out with what it was this morning. But we are hopeful for tomorrow. I guess we'll see what
Still
happens.
up though, which is good because sometimes
Yeah.
when we have these calls, no matter how good they are, it's usually down $20 as soon as Elon starts talking. So currently we are still positive.
Sorry, mouse. Trying to figure where that goes. Okay, anyway, let's get into the shareholder deck because there's some interesting stuff here. So we'll go next. So the big things here, free cash flow, $621 million in Q2. In total, they increased their cash and cash equivalents by about $800 million to $18.3 billion. 2.5 billion gap, operating at 2.3 net income, Interesting. Boring, but interesting still. More than 1,000 vehicles produced in a single week at Berlin, and highest solar deployment in over 4 years. So that's really great because we have seen solar decline a little bit.
Yeah, they weren't really pushing it as much last couple of years.
So it's interesting to see that it is now going up, exactly like what we love to see. And it says we continue to make significant progress across the business, They achieved an operating margin among the highest in the industry of 14.6%. Free cash flow, yada, yada. From Austin, the first vehicles with 4680 cells and structural battery packs were delivered to U.S. customers. Maybe we'll get one. Maybe.
Yeah, we have the order in for another
Maybe.
Y. We always do.
But Monroe is actually tearing one apart and they just de-lidded the battery pack. So that ought to be interesting. Next up, let's see. Fremont and Shanghai factories achieved their highest ever production months in new factory growth, which is crazy considering Shanghai was shut down for, what, 2 or 3 weeks?
Many weeks, yeah. Back then.
So it's kind of crazy to see all that. This, I'll definitely look into it, but we don't really need to go too far into this today. We're gonna just hit on the key things. Total revenue, 42% year over year. And then operating income year over year to 2.5 billion in Q2. 14.6 operating margin like we spoke about. And then it kind of lists why, but.
And not surprisingly is the increase in the average sales price because they have had several price increases over the past quarters.
As many people have seen.
But then it does mention right below that higher costs as well, so.
Exactly. So you have higher raw material, commodity, logistics, expedite costs, higher per unit fixed costs in Shanghai due to their shutdowns. And then the Bitcoin impairment, which we will go into in just a little bit. Actually, it's right here. They converted approximately 75% of their Bitcoin holdings to basically back to cash.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Now, if you see here, that added 936 million of cash to our balance sheet, whereas, where was it? They had increased by 902 million, but had some debt repayments of 402 million. So I'm seeing some things on Twitter that are saying they sold the Bitcoin to kind of make their sheet look a little better. Their balance sheet.
But also, with the way that Bitcoin has been going and all cryptocurrencies almost for the past few months, it's it makes, I'm sure they had a rule in there to sell it before it dropped too much.
Yeah. Now let's see here. The solar deployed is what I kind of wanted to see. So they talked about it early on. And this is megawatts, by the way. So this is a ton. They've been pretty stagnant, like we were talking about, at between 85, 83, 85, 48 in Q1 of 2022. It was a rough one. But they jumped to 106 megawatts. And then storage deployed also had a huge jump as well. So year over year, technically, storage is still down 11%. However, year over year for solar is up 25%. Batteries, we all know, are heavily constrained, so I have a feeling that is one reason why storage deployed is still down so low. We have several friends still waiting on Powerwalls. Actually, a lot of people still waiting on Powerwalls that have reached out and everything. But it seems like solar is picking back up, which is great. There's been maybe some hold-offs on all the tariffs for solar panels coming in, so hopefully that kind of helps keep things a little bit more reasonable price-wise. So everything else, mobile service fleet, they increased that. Stores and service locations, they have certainly increased that. Supercharger connectors, I mean, stations is cool, but connectors is really kind of what it boils down to. Year over year, 34%. So they're now up to 36,165, which is absolutely wild. Let's see. So Texas, Cybertruck still in development. Semi-Roadster and Robotaxi and other still in development. TBD for where they will be manufactured. But if you look at their current run rate, Shanghai is greater than 750,000. California or Fremont for 3 and Y is over 500,000, 100,000 S and X, and then Berlin and Texas Model Y are both north of 250,000.
Yeah, so ramping up, but they still
very quickly.
They still have a ways to go, to get
Yeah.
caught up with Fremont. I'm sure eventually both of those will far exceed the capacity at Fremont.
Yeah.
But they're still just getting started and getting ramped up.
Now, how long do we think till they hit Shanghai levels?
I don't know. Could be next year.
I think next year.
It depends.
Call
though,
me
too,
optimistic.
because you
but-
also have like supply constraints with other things
True.
too. So they might be just with the 4680 cells. It's like, well, we know that they can't produce as many 4680 cells to fill all those Model Ys. So now they're starting to build the
2170s.
2170 there as well.
Yep. Let's see. Speaking of that, though, they said in Texas we added flexibility to produce vehicles with either a structural battery pack or legacy battery pack. So I guess that right there answers: will the 2170s potentially be a structural? They won't be.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to see. I would imagine that would cause a huge redesign and everything. The next gen of 4680 battery cell machinery has been installed in Texas and is in the process of commissioning. Factory output in Texas continues to grow. Love that. Great news. Shanghai, so it was shut down fully, then partially for the majority of Q2. We ended the quarter with a record monthly production level. Recent equipment upgrades will enable us to continue the increase. And then Berlin, more than 1,000 per week using 2170s, and expect it to continue improving. Nothing abnormal. Here you can kind of see the chart of market share of Tesla vehicles by region. Everything's up. So we love that. The big thing, FSD, so as of the end of Q2, 100,000 have access to FSD beta, which is actually pretty impressive. I didn't think it was anywhere near that amount. So that's great. Hopefully we can get it on our Model X once we get that.
And also we still have the S100D, which we did just get the cameras upgraded earlier this week, actually, right?
Yeah.
And so once they start doing another push of the full self-driving beta, hopefully we'll be in that release and we'll have it to test there as well. Because we did purchase full self-driving on that over 5 years ago. So it'd be nice to get it turned on. So.
Not like we're counting, but it was a long time ago. Let's see here. Vehicle software, that's nothing really new. We've kind of seen all
nothing
of this.
big recently. They just had some updates to the suspension and seat belt stuff like that. So nothing huge.
Yep.
No big.
I do love how they say UI customization introduced V11 software update by allowing vehicles to control things as defrost, windshield wipers, and seat heaters one touch away.
Well, they were always there except for the first 3 months of the year when they took them away.
Yeah.
Now they're back.
Yeah, so that's just kind of funny. Let's see though. They talk about the robot count in body shops and new factories dropped by over 70% per unit of capacity compared to our first iteration of Model 3 body shop. So it just goes to show you they're really learning and taking what they've learned from early factories and ramped it
So
up.
I wonder if they can take those robots and put them on other lines and have more lines.
Or it's just cost less to get everything up and running.
Originally, yeah.
Which
To
is
duplicate
even better. And they do go and say,
there's
though,
with the graph.
simplification is not over.
But look at the graph there on the
Yeah.
side, showing that's hardly anything compared to what they used to use for the Model S. Wow.
Yeah. I wish there was a number here.
Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or is
that
it
would have been kind of
50
cool.
or 100? We don't know.
But either way, it just goes to show you, efficiency's sake, what's all coming of that. And I wonder, though, how much of this from Model Y is coming from those single cast front and rear?
Yeah.
Because those were huge and eliminated a
sure that's a
ton
large
of
part
welds
of it,
and
yeah.
everything. Let's see. We already kind of talked about energy storage, it's solar, other services, used car business remains strong. Yeah, everything is crazy expensive. Some people are actually showing quotes online that their used Tesla, they had bought it new model S or X, they can now sell it back to Tesla or trade it back into Tesla for more than they originally paid for it. So that's pretty wild. They also said growing merchandise.
That's interesting because I remember years ago when they're like, we're getting out of the merchandise business.
Exactly.
And they took it out of all the stores and stuff
Yep.
like that. But now they've decided, oh, people like this stuff. Maybe we should make some money and sell it.
It only makes sense. But yeah, I guess that's kind of like the big things we saw. Now, I want to kind of go into some of these photos because they did just hit their 2 millionth vehicle produced at Fremont. So congratulations to any of you at Tesla.
And how many of those have we bought? Like, all of ours have come from Fremont, right? Yeah.
They all have. So we've bought 14 out of 2 million. That's actually pretty high.
Yeah, that means
That's actually pretty high.
that means 7 out of 1 million are those Teslas have been higher.
That's actually kind of crazy. Yeah. A lot of money, basically, is what that boils down to. Model Y in Berlin. Model Y paint shop. Do these people just stand there and watch it spray all day?
Wow.
Or is this kind of a setup? Because I feel like this is a setup. But anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. The solar panels starting to go up on
look.
Giga Texas.
And it spells out Tesla.
So what they're doing, instead of spelling out Tesla
They're
with the
inversing.
panels, they're
Yeah.
doing it inverse so
Yeah.
they can do more panels.
Yeah.
Smart thinking. Which, speaking of, I will be back in Austin in 2 weeks for the shareholder meeting, the annual. I was picked to go out, so I will actually be flying there. So that will be kind of fun. It does say no photos, though, in the NDA that I had to sign. So
there'll be some
it says
special-
like no photos or videos. So I don't know what I will be able to share about it, but it should be kind of fun at least. Body shop in Texas, Shanghai, which just blows my mind because when we originally went out there, all that was there is this top building right here. This was starting to be built when I went out a second time, but all this is new.
Wow.
It's absolutely crazy what they have done. GA, vision-based seatbelt tensioning. This is kind of interesting. This was in a recent update.
Yep.
So faster deployment of tensioning due to Tesla Vision. So that's actually a good thing. And I'm curious to see what this does to their crash rating because they're already like top tier on their crash test rating. So I don't know how it's going to get better, but maybe it will.
Lower occupant acceleration. So I guess.
Yes. So, I mean, I guess less whiplash
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that, which obviously a great thing. Here's the August 4th shareholder. I don't know why my mouse keeps like jumping. There we go. August 4th shareholder meeting going on. I will be there. If you do have shares, make sure you vote. It is ir.tesla.com/shareholders/vote. Make sure to do that. It's worth your time. And then just fun graphs. Everything is going up. I mean, okay, so I guess the whole operating cash flow maybe
Except for-
had some
Except
dips.
for vehicle deliveries, which I noticed you kind of
Oh, that's true, actually.
skipped over that the first time.
That is true. I did miss that. So, yeah, not ideal. I have a feeling that is dipped due to Shanghai.
Well, yeah, Shanghai was shut down, so it's amazing they still did quite well considering Shanghai was shut down for a large part of Q2.
Yep. Let's see here, and I think that's pretty much it. So if anyone has anything, feel free to put it down below and we can talk about it. We are going to put in our earpieces so that we can all watch the webcast together. And then once that is over, we will come back and talk again. Now we won't be talking during the webcast. We'll actually mute ourselves and stay right here in this little corner. And so if you want to talk with us while the webcast is going on, just type it in chat. David will be manning the keyboard. So we can just chat down there. We don't want to take away from them talking, so we'd rather just go this route. They do have their hold music on, but technically it's not supposed to start for like another 9-10 minutes. So if anyone has any questions, comments, go ahead and throw it in the chat, and I will make sure everything is set up, ready to go.
One thing I think we should mention about the voting is the stock split.
Oh, yes, that is on there, the 3-to-1.
So it's not as good as, like people were hoping for 10-to-1 or something like that.
You know what, I wouldn't have
The
been
stock's
upset with
changed
it,
since
like
then.
20-to-1.
The
That
stock's
would've
come
been-
way down. Yeah, not like Google, but
Yeah.
basically 3-to-1 is still better than nothing.
Oh, totally. So definitely make sure if you do have any shares, please do go vote. I'm not going to tell you which way to vote. That is up to you, but you should make your voice known as a shareholder. So please do so. Exercise that right. Let's see. And the voting actually does kind of tell you what the board recommends.
Yeah.
You are free to choose whatever you want, though. Okay, so
And
we've
it's
kind of
also-
got everything set up.
The say technologies.
Yes, I need to pull up those
that-
questions.
But basically, shareholders can vote. They can ask questions, and then those questions can be upvoted at the Say Technologies website. And they always read those questions off. And in the past, they read straight from the list. And it'd be nice. We've talked in the past. It would be nice if they kind of consolidated some of the questions, because sometimes you'll say the same question 3 or 4 times, and they'll read it off and answer it 3 or 4 times instead of just saying, "Hey, this is the same as that one." But anyhow, we have a bunch of questions there, and we'll be going through showing those when they're discussing those.
And
answering them.
22,000 participants in the say.com questions. So that's pretty interesting. You can actually go upvote anything you want to see answered, or
Yeah, you just have to prove you're a shareholder, and you
Yep.
can link to your broker, and then it will allow you to vote your shares or to use your shares to upvote those questions.
Yep. Let's just make sure that everything is good here. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just kind of making sure that everything is good to go. So I'm going to adjust to this real quick. And
I was just seeing, Cat Shepherd says, Queen was on tour in Copenhagen yesterday. I didn't realize they were still around, but what was really neat is last night at Red Rocks, I heard Queen songs, and it looks like some Queen cover band was actually there.
Oh, wow.
Totally unrelated, but I'm just going off what's in chat, but they're still around, as well as their cover bands.
okay, so nope, that's my headphones. That's not it. It's not Helicon. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this all set
Is
up.
it coming through?
No, it should be this one, but it's not coming through. Let me adjust here. Let me get in here real quick and adjust this. Some people were wondering, what is the purpose of stock splits? Waves of Life said companies often split to make them more affordable to investors.
Yeah, basically,
if you want to hit on that.
A few months back, the Tesla stock was up to over $1,200 a share, and that just limits how many
Actually,
people can
do you want to
invest
sit
in,
over there for a second?
and how
'Cause I need
many
to go.
shares they can buy. So by making it cheaper, it allows other people to buy in. So it does dilute your earnings or whatever. So instead of having, say if it's at like $750 now, if with a 3-for-1, that would take it down to about $250 a share. So your value overall is the same, but you have more shares, but then you can then buy more, and then you hope that it will shoot back up to that pre-split price eventually. And we just saw this like with Google. We were talking about Google did like a 20-to-1 stock split last week, and so that can really help a lot of people jump back in and buy that stock at a more affordable price, and then see your wealth potentially skyrocket as those shares return back to the previous. Hopefully they'll return back to previous levels.
Yep. Okay, let me just jump over to this and make sure that we have audio. We do. Love that. Now I'm going to jump away real quick because that's probably copyright audio. As soon as they go live, though, we will jump over to that. And like I mentioned, when that is going on, that webcast, we will be in the little corner right here, so that you guys can listen to everything, and then we'll kind of chat during it. So it's kind of like a watch party in a sense.
And I see the Mando X Games, a couple of the Waves of Life are talking about V4 supercharging. We did see that like Marco RP and some others have been tweeting about those, and we had like a picture, the diagram of what the V4 superchargers will look like. It does look like they have a much longer cable than what you see on like a V2 or a V3 supercharger, which is meant specifically for Teslas, and they are stationed just right so you back up, and Tesla's charge ports are always on the same side, so the cables don't need to be that long. But with the potential for Tesla to open up supercharging to other makes of EVs, it looks like they are going to have V4 superchargers which have longer cables. However, it looks like that may have been an unintentional leak, because I saw Marco tweeted again, it looks like they've changed the plan. So those first location he was hoping might be the first V4 supercharger location might not just be a regular V3, and it looks like they probably submitted both sets of plans, and Marco found it, and then they're like, oops, not supposed to have that out there yet. So it will come eventually.
We'll see.
We'll see them eventually, and we don't know. Will we be seeing those installed at various existing supercharger locations as well?
Yeah.
And so that we don't have to worry about them blocking spots and stuff like that.
Exactly. And the whole reason why Tesla is doing this is the government is actually pumping a ton of money into the charging infrastructure. However, if Tesla doesn't install a more universal connector, then they can't get access to any of those funds. And to be honest, those funds are massive. So I am totally on board with them being able to do this, to be able to secure some of that.
But again,
it's only better for everybody.
And it's not going to be something they do overnight. They can't. They're not just going to flip the switch and all superchargers are going to be able to. So you don't have to worry about seeing all kinds of other EVs blocking superchargers. It's something they're doing kind of like in Europe, where it's limited locations, ones that maybe don't have as much traffic, so that it's not going to be a problem. And then as they start ramping up with new V4 locations, then all Teslas as well as new cars would be able to charge there as well.
Yep. Real quick, you got to see this dog. Oh, hi, Layden. How are you? So that's Layden. Kit's coming back into the room. Hey. He's right here.
There you go. Go lay down.
Now Layden's taking up the whole bed. Look, he's like, oh look, there he goes. He's gonna take that itty bitty section right there because Layden's taking everything up. Just like John said though, most of us charge at home anyway.
Yeah, we don't really need to worry about it. For most of us, we only worry about it on a road trip or something.
Exactly.
Like that.
And the great thing about charging from home, and why everyone should be doing it if you can, is one, it's far cheaper. It's going to be way cheaper.
Typically, yeah.
And also, you wake up every morning with a full tank.
Or as full as you want it to be.
Well, true. But the only time we really use superchargers is on road trips, or occasionally we'll go check one out. We did that recently. There'll be a video that we filmed on the CCS adapter.
So it is available for Tesla owners. If you have like a more recent car that has CCS charging enabled, you can acquire the official Tesla CCS adapter. There are some hiccups or something right now which maybe make it a little more difficult than it used to be, but we did acquire one back about a month ago and we've tested it out. It worked. It wasn't the best, but we've only tested it a couple times, but it's better to have an option than no option.
And that's the thing, is like options are better than nothing, especially we plan on taking our Model X on a lot of road trips. And so we really want some flexibility. Chris,
I thought we were just discussing that, Chris.
He just goes right before the live stream. Actually, I think it was when like the 5-minute thing was on. He looked at me and he goes, "So when are you going to replace this with the V4?"
Yeah. So I don't know if we'll replace it, but maybe we could have a second one somewhere.
Which, by the way, though, I'm still looking to buy a few more of these shells. If anyone has any leads on it, please message me, get a hold of me somehow, because I want some of those. And actually, there's a secret behind the shell right now. It's actually the SpaceX exclusive carbon fiber skateboard. I actually did a video on it long ago, but we were cleaning out the garage and I found it and was like, that needs to go in the studio. So.
And another thing about V4 is there's some speculation. How fast is it going to be? Because some people are thinking 350, but I know that currently V3 it can get up to 250, but there's still some unlocked potential in there that they can open up and probably make it 300 or more. But it'll be interesting. I don't think they're going to just go up to V4 like at 300. I think they're going to have to far exceed that. So it might be up to 500 or something. It'd be interesting to see.
That would be insane. Now, our V4, are those going to be used for semis?
I think that's still.
Or do you
different.
think those are completely
They have
separate?
like mega chargers or something
Yeah,
for that.
okay.
And there's a standard for that was recently announced, and they have a different connector and all that stuff. So I don't think it'd be for semis, but it sounds like they might be starting.
Are we starting?
Or is the song just changed?
No, I think the song changed.
Okay, but anyways, yeah, they're not going to be using the V4 for semis, but definitely the V4 will be helpful, especially with like the Cybertruck and stuff.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So we are going to switch over.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tesla's second quarter 2022 Q&A webcast. My name is
Audio
Martin
can be
Viecha,
kind
VP
of quiet
Investor
on their end,
Relations,
so
and I'm
we'll
joined
turn
today
up
by
as loud
Elon
as we
Musk,
can.
Zachary Kirkhorn, and a number of other executives. Our Q2 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please use the raise hand button to join the question queue. But before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thank you, Martin. So just as a Q2 recap, Q2 was a unique quarter for Tesla due to a prolonged shutdown of our Shanghai factory. But in spite of all these challenges, it was one of the strongest quarters in our history. Most importantly, in June, we achieved production records in both Fremont and Shanghai. And as a result, we have the potential for a record-breaking second half of the year. I do want to emphasize this is obviously subject to force majeure, things outside of our control. The past few years have been quite a few force majeures. And it's been kind of supply chain hell for several years. Credit to our awesome Tesla supply chain team for overcoming insanely difficult challenges. Huge thanks to the Tesla Shanghai factory team who sacrificed a lot to get the factory back up and running in June and achieve a record output. So also making good progress with production ramp with Berlin. We achieved an important milestone of 1,000 cars a week in June, and we're expecting our Giga Texas to exceed the 1,000 vehicle per week milestone hopefully in the next few months. To be clear, we're currently making the cars with the 2170 cells, and Drew Becklino will address some of the 4680 questions later in this call. But it is worth emphasizing that we have enough 2170 cells to satisfy all vehicle production for the remainder of the year. So we're not dependent on 4680. 4680 will be important next year, but it is not important this year. That said, we have installed the second generation of manufacturing equipment for 4680 cells in Texas. And even at our established factories like Fremont and Shanghai, we continue to expand capacity. Regarding Autopilot, we have now deployed FSD Beta with City Streets driving capability to over 100,000 owners. They're very happy with the capabilities of the system, and will continue to improve it every week. We've now driven over 35 million miles with FSD Beta. That's more autonomous miles than any company we're aware of. I think probably it might be more than all other companies combined. And that mileage is growing exponentially. With regard to manufacturing and technology, about 5 or 6 years ago, we said we wanted to become the best manufacturer in the world, and that is somewhat counterintuitively to some people what will actually be, I think, our strongest competitive advantage. We're super pro manufacturing here at Tesla, and in general, we want to encourage other companies to be super pro manufacturing, and in general, I think it is a very important thing to do. We need to make stuff and make it efficiently, and that's manufacturing. So we've made a lot of advancements in manufacturing processes. as we now show in the shareholder deck, thanks to our the large castings, we make the world's largest castings. We reduced body welding robot count by 70% per unit of capacity in Austin and Berlin. So that's call it roughly a body shop that is roughly 3 times smaller than would normally be the case. And I should say it's also lighter, cheaper, and has superior noise, vibration, and harshness. So it's good on every level. But this journey is not over. We'll bring a whole another level of simplicity and manufacturing improvements with Cybertruck and future products that we're not quite ready to talk about now, but I think will be very exciting to unveil in the future. Our safety team also introduced a feature that tensions seatbelts if the vision system detects imminent collision, which has never been done before. So you can imagine that if you have a seatbelt that only tensions upon impact, you have very little time to tension the seatbelt. If you've got to be, the car has literally got to be crunching to trigger the seatbelt tensioner. But because we have vision, we can actually see that a collision is about to occur with 100% probability before it actually happens. And so we can tension the seatbelts and we can even adjust the airbag deployment because we can see, not just feel. This is a fundamental safety advantage that Teslas are now able to offer. And this is also an over-the-air update. So if this is something that will be in place in all cars that have at least AP3 hardware. In conclusion, we exited Q2 with a stronger production rate than ever before. Our team continues to focus on Cybertruck production readiness and some future platform design. We are expecting to be still expecting to be in production with the Cybertruck in the middle of next year, and we're very, very excited about that product. I think it might actually be our best product ever. Let's see, and FSD beta is on track to be released for all of North American customers before the end of this year, and hopefully, if we get regulatory approval, we'll also be releasing it hopefully in Europe and some other parts of the world. We're hosting our AI Day in a few months. I think people will be amazed at what we're able to show off in AI Day. So basically, there's a tremendous amount to look forward to in the second half of this year. And I want to thank all of our employees and suppliers for their super hard work during these challenging times. Super appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Zach has some opening remarks as well.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I want to start by congratulating the Tesla team on excellent execution during the second quarter. Although our production volume reduced sequentially due to COVID-related shutdowns in Shanghai, we made substantial progress in nearly every area of the business, and in particular, our global vehicle production rate as we exited the quarter. Our Fremont factory, supported by our Reno team, reached new production records. The Shanghai factory resumed full production, and our new factories in Austin and Berlin are progressing well through their initial ramps. Additionally, our energy business achieved record gross profit with the highest solar volumes in many years. I want to personally thank the entire Tesla team, as I know many of you are listening. You've embodied a remarkable and relentless pursuit of excellence in support of our mission. I also want to thank our suppliers for their support during another complicated quarter. On GAAP automotive gross margin, it declined sequentially to 27.9%. A temporary decline in Shanghai production volume meaningfully impacted margin, including idle capacity and factory restart costs, and also had implications on the mix of regional deliveries. Additionally, as discussed on previous calls, we are working through the ramp inefficiencies of our new factories, which are progressing well, but have had an impact on margin as those factories come online. While we continue to see a benefit from higher pricing flowing through, which experienced some foreign exchange-related headwinds, our cost structure continues to experience cost increases from inflation, commodities, and logistics. The energy business progressed well in Q2, aided by alternate solar supply coming online and progress on unit economics. Our storage business remains component constrained on both Powerwall and Megapack, which we hope will alleviate to some extent in the second half of the year. We are greatly appreciative of the patience and flexibility shown by our customers while we work through these challenges. Within operating expenses, Austin and Berlin related startup costs have wound down as these factories have moved into production and their costs are now reflected in automotive COGS. Additionally, we converted a majority of our Bitcoin holdings to fiat for a realized gain, offset by impairment charges on the remainder of our holdings, netting a $106 million cost to the P&L included within restructuring and other. We also incurred restructuring charges related to targeted staffing reductions.
Yeah, actually, it should be mentioned that the reason we sold a bunch of our Bitcoin holdings was that we were uncertain as to when the COVID lockdowns in China would alleviate. So it was important for us to maximize our cash position given the uncertainty of the COVID lockdowns in China. We are certainly open to increasing our Bitcoin holdings in future. So this should not be taken as some verdict on Bitcoin. It's just that we were concerned about overall liquidity for the company given COVID shutdowns in China. And we have not sold any of our Dogecoin.
We still have it.
We still have our Dogecoin.
Despite these challenges, we were still able to achieve one of our strongest operating margins of 14.6%. Our free cash flows were impacted by working capital related to the Shanghai factory shutdown. However, we expect this will show as a benefit in Q3 as our working capital related cash flows restabilize. As we look ahead, and as Elon mentioned, we are positioned for a record-breaking second half of the year. We're quite excited about this. A couple things to keep in mind as we progress. Austin and Berlin ramp inefficiencies will continue to weigh on our margins for the balance of the year. However, the impact should reduce as we increase ramp. Second, as we've mentioned before, we expect to continue to see recognized global pricing to increase as our backlog flows through. However, macroeconomic related cost increases will also continue to be part of our story. And finally, despite losing more builds in Q3 than expected, we're still pushing to reach 50% growth this year. This target has become more difficult, but it remains possible with strong execution. And as Elon mentioned, no more force majeure events for the balance of the year.
A lot of force majeure in the last several years. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now let's go to the questions from investors. And the first question is, Chinese EV manufacturers seem to be doing a better job than their Western competitors, excluding Tesla, at innovating in software and design. How can Tesla make sure the company is staying ahead of those manufacturers, both within China and outside of China?
Well, right now the best Chinese EV manufacturer is Tesla China. We're actually doing the best thanks to our incredible team in China. But I have a lot of respect for the Chinese car manufacturers and EV manufacturers in particular. I think they will be a force to be reckoned with worldwide. They're they're smart and they're hardworking, and I think anyone who is not, any company that's not as competitive as them will obviously suffer a market share decline. So I would say we have a lot of respect for the car companies in China and then their capabilities. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is, when will Tesla have a unified vector space for both static and moving object network? Will this be a V11 or later version? If the latter, can you explain what makes it a difficult problem in layman terms?
Okay. This answer will be understood by 0.001% of the audience, I think. Most people don't know what a unified vector space would actually mean. It essentially would be if you can take, if instead of knitting together static and dynamic objects in C++, if they can be knit together at the neural net level, then you don't need to reconcile them within C++ heuristics. That is an architecturally better way that's the most desirable outcome. I think it's probably not necessary to achieve full self-driving, but it would be a slight improvement in the efficiency of the self-driving. And it's certainly something we want to get to. The sort of nirvana situation is you have surround video auto labeling of all static and dynamic objects, and you have then surround video inference with spatial memory as well. Then that's, I mean, I think we're almost certainly there before the end of the year. Yeah, not sure how many people would understand that, but
Sounds good.
I should say also we are also confident of improving the frame rate as we delete some of the legacy neural nets. We think we might be able to get the frame rate of all 8 cameras maybe up to 36 FPS, which is actually a lot of frames considering it's 8 cameras. But certainly comfortably above 24 frames, which is basically the movie frame rate of movies.
Thank you. The next question is, Elon recently tweeted about lowering prices once inflation cools down. Can you elaborate on what do you mean by cooling down and how aggressively the company will lower prices? More broadly, how do you think about the auto pricing long term?
Yeah, so since we have, there's a quite a long wait when somebody orders a car. In some cases, it's like six months. In some cases, it could be up to a year. We have to anticipate what the probable inflation rate is over that period of time. So that's what we're trying to do. When we see, when or if we see indications that the inflation rate is declining, then we would not need to increase our car prices. It's possible that there could be a slight decrease in car prices, but this is fundamentally dependent on macroeconomic inflation. It's not something we control. If I were to guess, and I wouldn't take this with a grain of salt, I think inflation will decline towards the end of this year. We're certainly seeing prices of commodities trending lower. But take it with a grain of salt. This is making economic prognostication is fraught with error. I don't know if you guys want to, do you want to say anything about it?
Yeah, we're certainly seeing, I mean, it's kind of a whole spectrum. On the battery metal side, for example, the price of lithium has really shot up. It used to be $11 a kilogram to more than $80 a kilogram. But, it's not every situation is that bad. So it's kind of a spectrum.
Like carbon steel, aluminum, after
Talk close to the camera.
carbon steel and aluminum has started trending down. We will see the benefits of it only probably later part of this year or early next year.
Yeah, but I think that's just like for most commodities, we're seeing a downward trend towards the end of this year or next year. Some commodities, the processing of lithium is insane. I'd like to once again urge entrepreneurs to enter the lithium refining business. The mining is relatively easy. The refining is much harder. So the lithium is actually a very common. There's like lithium pretty much everywhere, but you have to refine the lithium into battery grade lithium carbonate and lithium hydroxide, which has the extremely high purity. So it is basically like minting money right now. There's like software margins in lithium processing right now. So I would really like to encourage once again entrepreneurs to enter the lithium refining business. You can't lose. It's licensed to print money.
Thank you. The next question is, you made the right economic call before most on inflation when you diversified into Bitcoin. It has since shown it's not much of a hedge in the real world test in the last few months. How do you think about it as an asset over long term, and what do you need to see to change your view?
Well, Tesla's goal is to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. We're not really cryptocurrency is a sideshow to the sideshow. So we're not cryptocurrency is not something we think about a lot. We think a lot about scaling production and accelerating the advent of sustainable energy, which the record heat waves around Earth serve to emphasize the urgency of that transition. So that is what we're trying to do, is make electric vehicles and solar and stationary storage battery packs, but the three pillars of a sustainable energy future, which is like solar and wind for energy generation, stationary battery packs for storage of the solar and wind energy because of its intermittency, and then electric vehicles, the third pillar. And if those three things are solved, we have a sustainable future for civilization. And the fundamental good of Tesla, and the reason we're doing this, or certainly my primary motivation here, is to have the day of sustainable energy come sooner. That's our goal. We're neither here nor there on cryptocurrency.
Thank you. The next question on 4680. Elon noted that 4680 plus structural pack is not yet optimized. Can you please share the general path of 4680 and structural packs in terms of cost efficiencies when compared to the traditional 2170 pack? Will cost improvements be mostly due to scale, or do we need to solve some technical issues?
Should I start off?
Yeah, do you want to do the architecture?
So structural pack, where we get dual use of the battery or the cells as structure and as energy storage, in the same way that an aircraft gets dual use of the wing as a fuel tank and as a wing, is, I think, unequivocally, from a physics standpoint, the superior architecture. So it's the A architecture. Now, because it is new, we'll start off getting, often aspirationally a C within an A architecture. But the potential is there to get radically better and then unequivocally better than a battery pack, which is carried like a sack of potatoes.
And we've gained the perspective through putting our first structural pack into production that it is actually the A architecture.
Yeah.
Like before we did that, it was a hypothesis that was backed with got a lot of modeling and first principles analysis, but now we've actually built it and are more confident in that assertion.
So exactly. So the structural pack, even the C and the A architecture, is beating the non-structural pack. And so over time, it will, with further refinement, be substantially superior to a car that is carrying a battery pack as though it is cargo. And this, like I said, it's very, very much very analogous to the early days of aviation, where fuel tanks were initially carried like cargo until they realized actually you should get dual use of the fuel tank as a wing and as a fuel tank, and that makes the planes lighter and better. And the same is true of electric vehicles.
And on cost improvements, are they due to scale or about solving technical issues?
Both.
Yeah, it's always both.
Yeah, I mean, but really, the two things that improve cost are economies of scale and core technology. So,
yeah, I think technical issues are not the right.
It's not technical issues, like technology.
It's like getting to the optimal design, right? Like you always start with some excess. Some people might call it fat, but that's not really what you think it is initially. It's that you don't know how lean you can get it until you've done it a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, there's some platonic ideal of the perfect product where the atoms, you have exactly the right atoms in there in exactly the right position, and you asymptotically approach this platonic ideal. And but it takes a lot of effort over time to figure out actually what is the platonic ideal, and then to actually gradually approach that.
Yeah, I mean, you might need to create a new alloy, then you need to figure out how to cast it, then you need to ramp the casting machine of the new alloy, as an example.
We did.
As an example. We've done it for rotors, we've done it for the casting, so but those take time.
Constant improvement is something we're used to here, and it's something like we've done with our vehicles and our designs since the beginning. I mean, even we were talking a couple of weeks ago, like the first version of the front casting that we made that went into the early vehicles is like Model S days. No, I'm talking about like our first Model Ys.
Oh yeah.
Since we've ordered more dies because we need more dies for more production, we've saved like 4 or 5 kilos of mass just in die iteration, and that's something we do at Tesla like quite regularly, and we'll continue to do. So like we're not happy with a C. Like maybe we're at a C+ now because but like we got to keep going to get to
a B- ish on the rear casting. But this still tries room for improvement with the casting. So the casting is already way better than the rear body casting is already way better than the way it was done in the past, where you've got 120 different parts that are welded together or bonded together with different alloys, and then you have to put sealant in between all the various parts for water ingress and noise. So we're already way better than that with current casting, but there's still a lot of opportunities to reduce the mass of the casting and also extend the casting to include more parts, as well as adapt the rest of the vehicle for the fact that there's a casting.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, right? Like, we're not just evaluating the pack in isolation either.
Yeah.
It's the pack plus the body, the integration. Do we have mass in the right places? Do we have the cost in the right places, and only just the right amount? And I think, we've gone through one iteration loop. We're doing another one with Cybertruck. I mean, we're taking the learnings and doing, the next version hopefully is a B+.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
In the A architecture. That's certainly the target.
Thank you. The next question is, how do you feel the progress of FSD is going, and does Andrej Karpathy's leaving have any significant impact on timelines or potential progress?
Well, since Andrej was writing all the code by himself, naturally things have come to a grinding halt. Insert irony. So Andrej's obviously Andrej's awesome, and we have tremendous amount of respect for Andrej. He's decided to. I think he wants to contribute more to core AI at an academic level, and get back to coding individually. So, but we've got a team of about 120 people in our software AI group that are extremely talented, and I think we will have. I'm highly confident we will solve full self-driving, and it still seems to be this year. I know people are like, always says that, but it does seem to be it does seem as though we're converging on solving full self-driving this year.
Thank you. The next question is, how is the 4680 ramp going, and is Giga Texas producing cells yet?
Yeah, so we are making progress on 4680, but right now, as Elon mentioned, we are leveraging supplier cells, which we have in sufficient quantity to ramp Texas and Berlin. We expect to ramp total 4680 production to exceed 1K per week by the end of the year, hopefully before. Before. In Q2 at Cato, we fully automated powder conveyance for the dry anode electrode tool there, unlocking major increases in production and improvements in yields. Since March, because of that, Cato output has grown 35% month over month each month since, and yields throughout the factory are already at targets in most areas and trending in that direction in a few others. We did feed learnings from Fremont cell and pack lines to Texas and Berlin. They aren't a carbon copy. Cell design was revved to unlock higher performance and manufacturing simplicity. Manufacturing lines were further integrated, and we insourced additional content. For these reasons, there are some new ramp challenges to overcome in Texas and Berlin. Specific to Texas last quarter, cell equipment was fully installed and commissioned, and we produced our first commissioning car sets of cells through the end of the line. Our target for Texas is to begin production this quarter, and aim for Texas to be capable of exceeding Cato weekly output before the end of this year.
Thank you very much. The next question is on 4680 as well, but I think Drew has covered everything that was in the next question. So the following question is, with regards to the ramp of production in Austin and Berlin, how is the situation with regards to supply of semiconductors, battery cells, and other components? How about cost inflation impacting profitability of these other plants?
Smart. I can take that. So Tesla procures about 1,600 unique pieces of silicon from 43 semiconductor companies. So with a portfolio of that size, there are always challenges. Things are more stable on the latest generation chips. We still see some tightness in the older generation semiconductors, especially in the analog and mixed signal space. But we have line of sight to solve for the volumes being contemplated for both Austin and Berlin. And on the cell front, like Elon mentioned, we have a comfortable margin thanks to record output from our partners and have line of sight that matches the planned output from both factories. We've grown cell production significantly on a 12-month rolling basis and have long-term contracts with all our partners for key battery metals. So we don't see any major problems for the components, of course, barring unforeseen COVID-related shutdowns.
Okay. Just to add on the profitability part of the question, Q2 was our largest increase yet over the last handful of quarters on inflation and commodity-related increases to our cars. It's fairly evenly spread across the factories, given common suppliers or common issues that impact the broad supply chain. So I think I had mentioned before that we had been seeing increases over the course of last year. It ticked up in Q1, and then it ticked up again. The rate of increase was more in Q2. So as we look through to the end of the year, what we're seeing is we don't think the inflation-related increases in Q3 will be as big as Q2. But as Elon had mentioned, there's uncertainty on pricing here. And we don't have full exposure, as Karan had just mentioned, on every component of cost, because we do have some contracts in place, but there are some spot buys as well, and some contracts being renegotiated. So, we're managing it with pricing and in partnership with our suppliers, but it does continue to be something that is impacting our financials.
Okay, thank you very much. And the last question is, when will the Cybertruck be officially available?
We're hoping to start delivering them in the middle of next year.
Great, thank you very much. And now let's go to analyst questions. The first question comes from Pierre Ferragu from New Street Research. Pierre, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi guys, thanks a lot for taking my question. I'd like to ask a question on 4680 and the structural battery pack. And I'd love to understand where you stand on the technology and efficiency and energy density roadmap that you described at the Battery Day. So what I'm trying to understand is, where do you stand on the architecture of the battery cell itself? How much silicon do you have in it? How much energy improvement have you achieved already so far? The reason I'm asking, sorry?
No, go ahead.
And the reason why I'm asking that is because you have very smart guys on Twitter who shared experience about trying to fully empty a Model Y from Texas, from Austin, and noticing behaviors and recharging behaviors that suggested that maybe these cars had very, very high mileage, very high range, and were artificially limited in range in software. So I'm just kind of trying to understand how much of an edge you're building at the moment with the 4680 and the structural battery pack on range.
Yeah, let me try to provide a super straightforward answer. As Elon mentioned before, our priority was really on simplicity and scale during the initial 4680 and structural battery ramp. So we weren't putting all the bells and whistles in from day one, because if so, we would be sort of suffering under a string of series miracles that we would need to achieve to get going. But as we attain the manufacturing goals that we've stated, hit the ramp that we need to hit next year, we are certainly planning to layer in new material technologies and higher range structural packs. Like we're not like holding back goodies for some rainy day or something like that.
Yeah, maybe another way of putting it is that our focus right now is on basically dozens of little issues that inhibit the production ramp of the 4680. Some of the more challenging ones have been, feeding the anode and cathode material, because we were using this revolutionary dry electrode process. But when something's revolutionary, it's a lot of unknowns that have to be resolved. So we're confident of resolving those unknowns, but it's very, very difficult. We're making rapid progress on that front. So the first order of business is really get the basics right, get to high volume and high reliability, and then very rapidly iterate within that to enhance the energy density and reduce the cost of the cell. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'd say we are highly confident of a good outcome. It's the exact counterpoint to that is perhaps it is of some debate, but the outcome is not.
Yeah, and specific to the dry process, we made a major advance this past quarter in Cato that the team is really excited about, and congrats to the team for achieving that.
But I should also emphasize that it is not as though Tesla intends to displace our suppliers of battery cells. The Tesla battery cell production is in addition to what our suppliers can do, and we want our suppliers to grow their battery output as fast as they possibly can, and that goes for the entire supply chain. The fundamental rate limiter for Earth transitioning to sustainable energy is how fast can you grow lithium-ion battery output per year. This is the fundamental rate limiter for Earth transitioning to sustainability, because you need the batteries for two of the pillars of sustainability: the stationary storage and for vehicles.
Yeah, and I just want to stress that a lot of these, higher energy density technologies are not necessarily scalable. I mean, most of them are not scalable from what I've seen. And so focusing on them is a distraction from the mission. It really is, how do we scale as fast as possible? And, we're taking these risks that we've discussed at Battery Day, and our plan is, as we de-risk them and they are successful, we want to bring them back to our partners so that they can go faster too, because that's all on the mission, right? How do we accelerate?
People often ask me if is some breakthrough needed in battery technology for the world to transition to sustainability. The answer is no. Even if there was zero technology breakthroughs, literally zero, from where the technology is right now, we could fully transition Earth to sustainable energy. The issue is very much the rate at which the entire supply chain, from mining to refining to cell production, how fast can that grow? It's growing fast, but the faster it grows, the faster we transition to a sustainable energy economy.
This is actually a great, exactly where my follow-up is. So, Elon, you always mention, this 50% per annum sustainable growth target that you guys have, and so my question here is, when we see the difficulty regarding commodities, raw materials, swinging prices, I'm kind of wondering, as you are planning for this 50% per annum growth, if we stand today over the next 5 to 10 years, how much of that do you feel you've secured through your work at entering into long-term contracts and things like that? And you were calling for entrepreneurs to go into the lithium business. And so does that mean you don't have enough lithium secured to grow 50% per annum over multiple years? And what's how much of that is secured today, and how fast can you improve that, basically?
Well, I think it's very difficult to predict anything 10 years from now. I hope civilization is still around, frankly. I would count that as a win.
It's not that funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Every day.
Hopefully we haven't had World War III by then.
Or the Earth isn't burned up.
Yeah. We do see constraints in refining of the materials necessary for lithium-ion batteries. I do want to emphasize it is not due to a scarcity of the raw material. In the case of lithium is one of the most common elements on Earth. It's pretty much everywhere. But refining of the lithium into ultra-high purity battery-grade lithium hydroxide and lithium carbonate is quite difficult and requires a massive amount of machinery, and it's a hard thing to scale. It is also difficult to create the anode and cathode. I think my guess is maybe 2/3 of batteries will be iron phosphate, or maybe iron phosphate with some manganese. And there's a ridiculous amount of iron on Earth. In fact, Earth is a little bit of trivia. Somebody says, what is Earth made of more than anything else? Iron. Iron is the number one ingredient of Earth by mass. Number two is oxygen.
Yeah, which is wild. But yeah.
Oxygen's basically rust. You stuck them together. We're a rust ball. That's almost 2/3 of Earth, I think, is rust. We are like a rusty ball bearing, with a little bit of other stuff. But plenty of lithium. So anyway, there's not like a shortage of materials.
But another thing on that LFP thing is it isn't just that there's more access to material that way. The actual refining process is less capital intensive to make a good LFP cathode. And so there's it's not just scalable on the resource side, it's scalable on the refining side.
Absolutely. To be clear, there's no fundamental barrier here. It's simply a rate question. Mm-hmm. Like at what rate can you scale production?
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a very rapid increase in battery production, and in the whole supply chain. If you were to say today, what are concerns? A few years down the road, I would say one of the concerns is the machinery to refine the critical ingredients of lithium-ion cells. So the lithium itself, and then the cathode, which I said will be mostly iron phosphate, perhaps with some manganese. I think almost all stationary storage will be iron phosphate, and then you'd really just need nickel chemistry for long-range vehicles and like aircraft and that kind of thing.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is, we're working with our suppliers to ramp their capability as quickly as possible. And it's not like we have a problem in the next year or two, to specifically to your question. But when we look 10 years out, we need to do more to accelerate the growth. And that is why we are making our own investments. Like we are building a cathode facility here in Texas. The steel is going up. You can see it in the flyovers. We're working on lithium refining activity as well ourselves, because, the best way to learn how to accelerate something is to do it yourself. So these are the things we're doing to move it all forward.
Yeah, I mean, if our suppliers don't solve these problems, then we will.
Yeah. Thank you. The next question comes from Emmanuel Rosner from Deutsche Bank. Emmanuel, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a question on your vehicle demand and then a quick follow-up on supply. First, on the demand side, are you seeing any sort of pressure in the order book or the pace of new order, or any sort of like slowdown as a result of the pressures that the consumer is experiencing? Are you worried about it in light of your view of the risk to the economy that I think you expressed, Elon?
Well, right now our problem is very much production. So we have long leads on, as anyone can tell if they order our car. It, if you order a Model Y, it will arrive sometime next year. So this is clearly not an issue for many months for us. Our problem is overwhelmingly that of production. So, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe just two things to add. Specifically on your question, are we seeing a macroeconomic impact on our demand? Not that I can tell. Maybe a little, but
some maybe, but it's
not material. The second thing, to Elon's point about backlogs, we have a very long runway with very long lead times here. I mean, certainly the world is uncertain, and we'll have to see where things go with commodity prices, how quickly we're ramping production, what the state of the world looks like at some point next year. But the demand is not something we spend really any time talking about.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe just once again worth mentioning that there is a difference between value for money and fundamental affordability. Because sometimes people say, well, if you got all this demand, why don't you just raise the price to some, double the price or something? And this is usually expressed by somebody who's rich. So there's even if you rail value for money to infinity, if consumers do not have enough money to buy it, even a product where the desirability is railed to infinity, they simply cannot buy it. So this is why you cannot just raise prices to some arbitrarily high level, because you pass the affordability boundary and then the demand falls off a cliff. So I do feel like we've raised our prices, or we've raised our prices quite a few times. They're frankly at embarrassing levels. But we've also had a lot of supply chain and production shocks, and we've got crazy inflation. So, I'm hopeful. This is not a promise or anything, but I'm hopeful that at some point we can reduce the prices a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay,
Emmanuel, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, my follow-up was actually on the supply side. So it was very encouraging to see that you're quantifying your current installed capacity at basically already in excess of 1.9 million units installed currently. How quickly do you think that you can fill that capacity?
Well, I mean, I think we've got a good chance of exiting this year at 40,000 vehicles a week.
Yeah, I mean, our internal plans are to have the capacity utilized by the end of the year. It takes time to ramp there. It'll be a challenge. There's a lot that needs to happen to get there, but that's what we're working on.
Yeah, we've had many 30,000 car weeks already, so I think a 40,000 car week is within reach by the end of this year.
Shanghai and Fremont, as we said last month, were record production, and they're really firing. It's a bad term. Doing really well.
Yeah.
But then Austin and Berlin are coming on strong. Theoretically, they also had record quarters last quarter. And if we ramp them to the capacity shown in the deck, by the end of this year, we'll be at that rate.
Yeah. But there's always a lot of uncertainty, and like in the production ramp looks like an S curve. And that intermediate part of the S curve it's very difficult to predict that with high certainty. But the end part of the S curve, you can say, I think you can have a lot more certainty, and so that's why I'm confident we'll get to 5,000 cars a week at in Austin and Berlin. By the end of this year or early next year, and probably, but not certainly, 10,000 cars a week at both locations by the end of next year.
Thank you. The next question comes from Colin Rush from Oppenheimer. Colin, go ahead, please.
Thanks so much, guys. Could you talk a little bit about the pricing strategy around FSD and as you get closer to this full functionality rolling out and the increased cycle times, how you see that evolving through the balance of this year and into 2023?
Yeah, we will. We will increase the price of FSD sometime later this year. I think, probably just before we go to wide beta. Where wide beta is, anyone who wants to use the beta software with all the caveats associated with that can use it. Then it would make sense to increase the price of FSD. The value of FSD is, I think, extremely high and not well understood by most people. It is basically currently ridiculously cheap, assuming FSD materializes, which it will.
Great. And then sorry to belabor a little bit on this battery material side, but in terms of some of the suppliers and the contaminants, can you be a little bit more specific around some of the elements that you guys see in some of your supply chain that can prove troublesome on yields for the 4680s, particularly around lithium and potential contaminants in either the hydroxide or the carbonates that you guys end up seeing real issues with as you move into production?
Yeah, I don't really think we have anything to comment on. Yeah, the purity specs of lithium on this call right now. Yeah,
contaminants for the 4680 are not a factor. This is not an issue.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question comes from Tony Sacconaghi from Bernstein. Tony, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you for taking my question. I have two as well. In response to the question around demand, I think, Zach, you said maybe a little, and Elon, you said maybe some indication that you might see some pressure on demand. And I'm wondering if that is really just speculation or whether there's any empirical data that you saw in the last month, whether it be cancellations or order lead times, that led you to make that comment. I think anecdotally, if you squint, the lead times have gotten a little lower over the last 4 months in both China and the US. That's really the only visibility investors have. So I'm wondering if you could maybe elaborate on whether that's really just your, sort of anticipating there could be some impact because of high prices, or whether there is something anecdotally or quantitatively that you could point to, please.
I think we've said this now for many years, and it is proven true. Tesla does not have a demand problem. We have a production problem. And we've pretty much almost always had it with very rare exception, it's always been a production problem. I think that will remain the case.
Also, there's a denominator and a numerator, and
as you increase production.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As we increase production, more demand is needed, obviously.
Well, it's more just you can't look at the backlog and state much about demand, because we're doing a lot on the other side to change the production. But
we're trying to make the backlog lower, not longer.
By building factories and building more cars.
we don't want a long backlog. That's annoying. It'd be like go to a restaurant and you order a burger and you have to wait 3 hours. I'm like, that's annoying. You want to get your burger right away. Same with the car. So we want the lead times to reduce.
Okay, thank you. Now, I was just trying to follow up on the fact that you both said that maybe you were seeing demand be impacted a little bit, and that was the spirit of the question. Maybe I can
say we don't have because we see daily orders from around the world for our cars. It is like a a mood barometer of people's confidence in the economy. But one can't read too much into it because things can vary a great deal from one day to the next. Consumer sentiment is all over the map. So it's manic. I was manic depressive, frankly. But we have so much excess demand that it's really just not an issue for us. It might be an issue for some other companies, but it is not an issue for us.
Okay, thank you. Elon, I'm just wondering a question for you. Tesla's obviously changed dramatically in the last 3 years from, near life or death to a company with, consistent cash flow and industry-leading margins. I'm wondering if you can comment on your personal role in the company and whether you see that changing in terms of your role or your commitment and time spent at the company over the next 3 or 4 years. I think you said a few calls ago you wouldn't be on calls and unless there's something unusual, and you've been on every call since then. I'm wondering how
there's been a lot of unusual things. Let's face it.
So I'm just wondering about
basically, if there's only good news, I won't be on the call. but if you have like a tough situation like COVID shutdowns in China, then I think I'll be on the call. If relatively speaking, there's bad news, and if all we have is good news, then I won't be on the call. But I'm committed to the long term. I mean, I'll work at Tesla as long as I can usefully advance the cause of sustainability and autonomy.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. The next question comes from William Stein. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Great. Thank you very much for taking my question. Elon, in the past, you've given some assessment as to the likelihood that you can achieve success in some of the more interesting AI-oriented efforts, not only FSD, but also Dojo and Optimus. Perhaps you can give an updated view on those.
Well, I don't want to steal thunder from AI Day. So I think we'll have some exciting news on AI Day that I think will be further ahead than probably most people think. But I don't want to. I'd love to answer you, but I think we'll leave that excitement for AI Day.
Okay, and perhaps a follow-up if I can. We've heard a lot from others, and certainly to some degree from you all, about the shortages in semiconductors in particular. We have seen some, big important customers of that type of product decide to sort of, leverage the ecosystems that exist to make some of their own in those categories. I'm wondering to what degree you're doing that. It's outside of Dojo in terms of the, I guess on the inference side, you're certainly doing that in the car. But what about sort of the more mundane areas like microcontrollers and the like? Is there any internal effort to improve supply chain and maybe improve other performance aspects?
Well, there's a lot we've done. We've been working with our suppliers a lot. We don't currently intend to make chips ourselves. We don't think there will be a need to make chips, but we have been working closely with a number of suppliers. I actually just met with one of our key supplier CEOs right before this call. We had a great meeting. They're going to make major investments in some of the critical chips and components that we need in the car. And I've actually like take a moment to thank our key suppliers once again for supporting us through difficult times, and they really went above and beyond to support us. So to all our suppliers out there, thanks very much.
Yeah, and I guess just maybe we don't talk about it very often, but we do have a lot of custom silicon in the vehicle already. Microcontrollers, yes, some. Battery management, yes, some. Power electronics, yes, some. So we try to go after where there's actually a technical advantage. And in the future, I think we're going to look at where there's a supplier advantage as well, even supply chain advantage.
Even now, where there's supply chain issues with our tier ones and tier twos, Karn and Roshan get into it with us on the engineering side, and we find solutions, whether it's alternative chips or, changing the entire structure of the stack to make it work. And I think that's an advantage we have that many other OEs just simply cannot.
Yeah, I think Tesla is as much a software company as it is a hardware company, and so one of the ways that we've been able is by rewriting our software to be able to use different chips, or in some cases achieve dual use of a single chip, which is even better. And actually, quite frankly, the chip shortage served as a forcing function for us to reduce the number of chips in the car.
Simplify.
Yeah, it turns out we had more chips than we needed. So, but it's a testament to our software team that we're able to roll a new chip into the car and write a whole new batch of software for that chip, and without interrupting production.
Yeah, and our goal is, as we mature and scale the platforms, to integrate more functionality into fewer chips. Like, that is the way that it's gone with laptops and phones. It's going that way in cars, and we're trying to do that wherever it makes sense to do it.
Yeah,
as quickly as we can.
I mean, from a supply chain standpoint, what do you think about the chips and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, from a high level, instead of designing and building our own microcontrollers, we're partnering with key partners that understand the architectural requirements, and they'll take the specs and design something for us. We've done that, to your point, Drew, in the battery sensing space. We've got some application-specific ICs. But yeah, integrating, reducing the number of components, it makes the supply chain easier, but it also makes the reliability of the end product better, because there's less failure points. So that's always been the mantra.
And at times we also go at the wafer level and try to consume less to achieve the same functionality. So that's something also that we've been looking at in some of the constrained modules that we've faced in the last 6 months.
That's good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all of your questions. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have this quarter, and we will speak to you again in 3 months' time. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Okay.
There you have it.
Well, that was a doozy.
Yeah.
Some of those questions go way too long.
Yeah, or the answers go quite long, because that one answer must have been like 15 minutes.
And some guy kept saying like questions, and he kept going. Anyway, though, that was basically it. Did we learn anything? Cybertruck mid-2023 if all goes well. That's basically it. Is our volume working? Yes, it is.
Yeah,
okay.
It's just that shut off when you close that, so I was like, whoa.
So mid-2023.
Cybertruck, lots of increased production.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Cybertruck, because I mean, when did they first announce that? Like 2019 or 2020? It was 2019.
Yeah, and so like I want to hold out hope, but I also am a person that tends to plan for the worst. So when it's like early or something, I get super excited. I do this a lot in like my daily too. So.
But it's nice though that by Tesla having that announcement for the Cybertruck, it caused a lot of other manufacturers to come up with their own trucks, and which have already come out. So we've seen the F-150s launch, and like GMC's coming out. The Rivian. So all kinds of other competition coming out. And what's weird is they're all going to beat Tesla to the market, but then it'll be interesting to see how much does Tesla change the Cybertruck next year.
Well, the design has already been finalized.
Yeah,
so I guess it's going to be...
It hasn't been announced to
exactly.
us, so that's why we want to see.
Yeah, and I don't know what all August 4th will entail, because that is the annual shareholder meeting down in Austin. I will be there, but I don't know what it's going to entail. Could we see the final Cybertruck design? To be honest, probably not, because that's something they're going to do an event for.
Yeah, definitely. But will they could drive it by in the distance while you're like standing.
I mean, they can drive it by us all standing there. That's totally welcome.
Oh, Cybertruck.
But I mean, overall, I guess we didn't really learn too much.
I mean, it was already in what they have already released, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything was pretty much what we had already learned. They just confirmed a few things, I guess. Confirmed some of our suspicions.
And I'm with some of the people, our viewers here, saying it's like, where are these questions? You know, we mentioned.
Oh yes.
It's just like some of them are like not Tesla related at all. And this
well,
one,
it's like the.
Or they have the exact same question one after another, and this time they actually skipped it. In the past, they would go ahead and read and answer it again. And it's just like at least they skipped that question because it was exactly the same. But that's why it's like if you do have shares, sign up and vote and try to get some Tesla questions on the list.
Yeah, it's like I mean some of the questions. While I am wanting to know the answer, this is not the time or the place. The one question that luckily they stopped right beforehand was, will there be early access for Tesla long-term investors to have early access to SpaceX as an investment opportunity? I'm sorry, that does not belong in this conversation. While I myself am also interested,
but nothing to do with Tesla.
Doesn't belong in this conversation. This kind of always makes a play. How does Tesla plan to handle misinformation, attacks, and fake news against Tesla and Elon Musk? This almost comes up every time. This
is kind of fun. We should go through the questions next time. Maybe.
Oh yeah, why don't we answer some of these? How do you plan on executing your strategies to create massive scale?
We'll just keep building more gigafactories.
Thank you. Any ETA on Master Plan Part 3? No ETA on that yet.
Next year.
What is the source of energy for Tesla Berlin? Would you consider buying back shares if we can maintain profitability?
When is the Tesla stock split?
Okay.
So we're talking about that. That would probably be just finalized in August, right? They're going to talk about it, if it will be the 3-for-1.
Yeah, I mean, some of these questions are good, but again, some of them just like, I'm sorry, I don't think they belong in this.
Yeah, these were actually better, the ones that you're just going through now, but yeah, some of them...
Did someone say there's music still? No, there's no music.
I don't think so.
Somebody said mute Spotify's on, we can hear...
Is your phone on? Uh-oh. Is your phone playing? No, your phone's not connected, though. I don't
I don't know.
Uh-oh. Where's their music
Sounds like
at?
Space Jam?
Music? Is it playing this music from there still? No, because that's closed. It just closed it anyways.
Play some too short. What's going on?
I don't know, because it only shows one input for the music, so... When you share screen, hear music.
Oh, it's off now? Oh, maybe it was the Tesla...
Oh, great. So
well, I'll deal with that copyright claim later.
Get rid of a couple minutes. All of our questions, all of our answers will be wiped out, so nobody will know the answers to all those.
Yeah, it was the Tesla tab. My bad, guys. That'll have to be wiped out later. I'm sure that we're already being copywritten right now. Yeah. So that's fun. But anyway, there's just like a lot of these questions, as we were saying, just don't belong in this sort of thing. And so please, if you have shares, make sure you log on to Say Technologies. Get signed up there so that you can vote with yours, because all it takes is like one whale, which FYI, if you don't know what a whale is, not only is it something that lives in our oceans, it is also somebody with a large position in the stock market in a single share. So like if someone has a couple million shares of Tesla, that would probably be considered a whale. So that's what it means by that. So to get some of these big questions out that don't really mean anything, make sure you vote. That's the best thing. Sorry for the audio, that's my bad. It's weird though, it didn't show it was here.
Normally on the little sound meter or mixer it shows that.
Yeah, that's sus.
From the other computer. So.
Sorry about that, everybody. But let's see. Oh yeah, Chris already said we're gonna get copyright. Yeah, love it.
Well, we'll go back. We know it started about 4:37.
I mean, YouTube will automatically tell me like this part's copywritten, and I'll just get rid of it. So that's nice. But let's see. We had Pierre. We didn't have any nuns on this call, so I was a little disappointed. That did bring us a smile last time. Let's see. What else was there?
Oh, Abstract Ocean in the house.
Oh, Abstract Ocean. If you aren't familiar, is our channel sponsor. Definitely check them out. I'll link down below.
Uh-oh. What?
Why is...
I don't know. I think when he disconnected his earbuds.
No, I think it was on autoplay and the Tesla thing officially ended, so then it started playing through. Wow. This has been a grand old time, I swear. This is just water. That's all I'm drinking. Let's see. Is anyone else have anything?
Or do the link or Say Technologies. Just copy. It's just app.saytechnologies.com.
Unfortunately, I don't have access in this computer to send it to this computer.
Oh, well, I could just type it in.
So, yeah, here. There you go. saytechnologies.com.
So
and then you can, there's like specifically Tesla, and you can get registered. Definitely do that in the future, please, please, please. I'll show you actually exactly how to do it. When you get to their website, it is gonna look like this. I don't know why it's so big. We can make it a little smaller. And then you can do Tesla. You'll need to sign in and log in up here, and then you can go into whatever companies that you are part of and take care of that. Please, 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 please do that. And please vote with your shares. It's the only way to get your voices heard.
Only on good questions.
Yes. Let's see. John said ordered Papa John's stuffed crust pizza with pepperoni. Yum yum. Oh man, pizza does sound delicious for dinner. Let's see. Oh wait, it's only 4:41.
Oh wow, it seems later. We got an early start.
I guess it was raining a little bit, so it looks darker outside. Let's see. Waves of Tesla said you can verify Tesla shares in your Tesla account now too.
That's new.
I had no idea. Thank you. I'll have to look that up. Roger said, would Elon like to watch American Auto? That would actually be pretty funny if you watched that.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen that. That's
yeah, this
funny.
new season hopefully comes back here. And Stefan...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the stock split is going to be talked about and voted on, I guess, on August 4th annual shareholder meeting. So it wasn't mentioned in this quarterly meeting.
Yep, and that is something that if you have stocks, go through whoever you have so that you can get your votes in. They should have emailed you your details already, but I already voted long ago. Make sure you do it. That's really...
I still need to do mine.
Okay, slacking. But it's actually really easy. It's like one page, it's not that many questions, and it even says what the board would advise you to do, but again, you are able to choose whatever you want. So that is the great thing. Is that pretty much it?
I think so.
I think that's pretty much it.
For today.
Yeah, cool. Well, that was fun. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Hopefully we're able to make it a little more fun, because sometimes those questions at the end get a little dull and a little long-winded. But thanks to everyone for hanging out in the chat. Really appreciate it. The chat's a great way to communicate with us, especially on call days, because that is what we mainly do. And next time, make sure that you have your popcorn and your food ready so that you can hang out with us. But that's basically it. Hope you all enjoyed it. Huge thanks to our channel sponsor, Abstract Ocean. If you are looking to accessorize your model SX3 or Y, definitely check them out. All linked down below, and using code Tesla Inventory will get you 15% off of your first purchase. A lot of really cool things coming. We've been working on some stuff. I don't think I can say it. Okay, I won't say it yet. But there's some really cool stuff coming. What else is new in our life? Can we say too much?
I don't know, if you didn't see the last live stream that we had a week and a half ago, we made the announcement that we will be hosting a foreign exchange student who arrives in just over 2 weeks.
Yes.
He'll be on his way to come stay with us for like 10 months. And so that will be a big change in our life. And we plan on doing a lot of Tesla road trips in the S, and if we ever get the X, we'll do that. And
or another EV.
Another vehicle. Oh, yeah, there's another. We got word today of other potential EVs on their way. So we are looking forward to those.
I had to take a drink so Diego didn't yell at me for not saying more. But that's pretty much it, I guess. So we'll probably be back on Sunday for our typical live stream and have some videos to get edited. But we will see you all very, very soon. Thanks. Bye.